I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it.
Hello everyone, welcome to this week's PE from home. We're going to be doing 4 activities today. Before we get started, you may notice that I've changed into what I'd usually wear at school for PE sessions. I would really recommend that you do the same. When you're doing PE or any sort of physical activity, you want to be wearing clothes that are comfortable to wear, and also it just gets you into the right mindset and it feels more like a PE session. The 4 activities that we're going to do, we're going to be linked to striking and fielding, jumping, and then there's 2 linked to outdoors and adventures. 1, some rock climbing, and the other, some orienteering. But first we're going to do a warm-up, so be ready in a clear space because we're going to be doing some star jumps, some jogging on the spot and some balancing with our traffic lights warm-up. At the start of each activity I'll tell you what equipment, if any, you're going to need.
Physically fit woman, nice, sweet, fantastic. Big body ocean at the big Titanic woman, nice, sweet, energetic. Big body ocean at the big Titanic woman, nice, sweet.
Hopefully on your screens now, you can see that it says traffic lights warm up. What I want you to do is, if you're at a device, if you sat down, I want you to move away from that device. To make sure you've got space around you, so if you maybe stick out your arms, move around, make sure you've got some space. On the screen you're either going to see the colour red. If you see red, I want you to stop. I want you to balance on one foot. If you see the colour amber, I want you to do star jumps. And if you see green, I want you to be sprinting on the spot. You only stop the activity once it's gone off the screen. So just get our heart beating, our blood pumping, ready to take part in some other activities. So if you see red, stop and balance on one foot and try to stay still. Amber, star jumps. Green, sprinting on the spot. Amber, so we should be doing star jumps now. Keep those going. Red, pick a foot, left foot or right foot, balance on it and try and stay still if you need to. Spread those arms out. Even pick a point on the wall that's not moving, so maybe a clock if you've got one on your wall. The fact that that's not moving might help you to be able to balance. Green, right, sprinting on the spot. High knees, get those arms moving, that'll help you go quicker. Keep going with the sprinting. Amber, right, star jumps. Balance, pick the other foot now, so if you were just balancing on your right foot, try balancing on your left foot and vice versa. Should be doing star jumps now. And sprinting on the spot. Keep it going. Star jumps. For those star jumps, see if you can get your hands up and above your head. And balancing. Sprinting on the spot again.
When you move your body, you know move it nice and sweet and
balancing.
Alright?
See if you can balance with your eyes closed. See if that makes a difference to how easy it is to balance. If you're thinking, has it got harder to balance the more you've been doing the other activities? Sprinting on the spot again. Star jumps. Balancing. Whilst you're balancing, use this time for a bit of a break. Take some deep breaths. You can put your hands on your head. That'll open up your lungs. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And there we go, well done, that's the warm-up complete.
The first activity we're going to do is called the Lily Pad Challenge. It's going to work on our jumping, so similar to what we did a couple of weeks ago. What you'll need for this is cushions or tea towels or normal towels or even t-shirts on the floor to be used as the lily pads so that you can jump from one to the other. Please, if you're using material like this, don't put it on a wooden floor. What you might find is that it'll skid when you jump onto it. If you're using it on carpet, that'll be great. If you do need to do it on wooden floor, maybe place the marker next to where you're going to jump. So if you're on a wooden floor, you wouldn't aim to land on the T-toy you'd be able to land next to it. So we're going to start off quite simple, and you can obviously extend your course if you wish to. And we're just going to do some very simple 2 to 2 jumps, hopefully without wobbling and without falling off the lily pads. Once we've done that, you can progress it to 2 to 1 jumps. What I mean by 2 to 1 is 2 feet to 1 foot to 2 feet to 1 foot to 2 feet to 1 foot. You'll notice I'm bending my knees to cushion the impact when I land. The final progression that you can do is jumping 1 foot to 1 foot, either hopping, so staying on the same leg, or swapping from one leg to the other. What I want you to do is work on that, see if you can improve your balance and also your landings, making sure you're not wobbling. Hopefully you can now see that I've changed my course and I've just moved things slightly off centre. Obviously you can see from my room at the moment, because we're decorating, we've got quite a lot of obstacles in here. You really need to make sure that you're in a safe space. If you're not in a safe space, save it till later on or go into the garden to do that. My space is just wide enough for me to do this safely, otherwise I wouldn't. What we're going to do now is the same types of jumps, but obviously I've got to think about the direction when I'm landing, and I've also got to keep the same control. So you can start off again, 2 to 2. I'm going to have to turn to be able to get the direction correct. The next progressions are obviously doing it 2 to 1 or 1 to 1 jumps. And you could even, possibly if you have a bigger space than I have, extend some of those distances, maybe even just by taking away one of the lily pads and making it one long jump. The final progression for this activity is to add in some obstacles. Now I'm sure like most people, I have more Amazon boxes now than I ever have done before. What you could do is you could use these either laid down flat, or if you want to give yourself a challenge, stand them up straight and use those at different points on your course to add in an obstacle to make the jumps slightly trickier. Again, you need to be doing this in a safe space. Please don't be attempting jumps that are really high, or if you're on quite a hard surface like concrete outside. Make sure that you are safe whilst doing it. We can do the same activities again. So we can just do 2 to 2 jumps. My first one, there's no obstacles, but then here I have an obstacle that I've got to jump over. Now I can see, just now I'm here, that actually if this was this way, it might be a little bit too high, even for me to do a safe landing. This size there is fine, so I can do a 2 to 2 jump, and it's a lot harder to steady yourself there the higher you've gone, so it's a really good challenge. Keep going with that. Again, I can see now I'm here. This might just be a little bit too hard for me to start off with, so I can just lay it down like that. Do a safe jump. Again, looking to keep your balance and bend your knees when you're landing. You can then do the 1 to 1 jumps and 1 to 2 jumps as well. The next activity is linked to outdoor and adventurous PE sessions, and it's going to be rock climbing from home. Now I'm really looking forward to doing this one. I'm sure you're all confused. The way we're going to do this is we're not going to have vertical rock climbing, we're going to have horizontal. So it's going to be on the floor. You're going to need some socks or some gloves or some other forms of coloured markers, but I think probably socks is the thing that most of you have at home. I like to try and get an even mix of lighter socks and darker socks. That's going to become important soon. The first part of this is just going to be similar to the last activity actually, just find a course across these. You've got to touch each one of the socks. Very simple. This is going to work on our problem solving, our balancing, our flexibility, and lots of other skills. What we could now say is, right, we can only step on the darker socks. So we're still stood up. We're going to just step on the darker socks, and likewise, we can say we're only going to step on the lighter socks. Now, although it doesn't seem like there's much decision making going on there, at certain points you've got to make a decision where to plant your feet. For example, if I plant my right foot there, and I know that my left foot's got to go here, I've tied myself in a knot. Okay, so there are small decisions being made as you go through. Try that as the first step to this. You might want to pause the video. When you press play, I'm going to show you the progression. Right, rock climbing vertically, obviously we've got to use our hands as well. So we're going to do that for horizontal rock climbing. You might have realised based on the first set of things that you've done that your markers are a bit too far apart, or possibly even too close together. I'm a bit limited by space. As I said in the earlier videos, we are decorating at the moment, so our house is a little bit upside down. What we could do to start with is just say that at each point, you've got to have both feet and both hands either on a sock or moving to one. So if we start off and I move my left hand, I've now got to move my left foot. And if I move my right hand, I've got to move my right foot. And slowly we're making decisions about where's best to plant our feet and to plant our hands. So now if I put my left hand here, I'm going to try and put my left foot there. It's a bit like a game of Twister this. Then if my right hand is moving here, put my right foot there. And slowly my body is moving upwards along our vertical rock climbing wall, and I completed it and I stuck to the task, which was to keep touching the socks at all points. A really good challenge would be to use the idea of switching between dark and light and apply this to hands and feet. So we could say you are only allowed to put your hands on the lighter coloured socks and your feet can only go on the darker coloured socks. That brings a whole different angle to our rock climbing wall. So if my feet can only go on the darker socks, they'd have to start here. My hands on the lighter socks would have to be here. I've now really got to think about the course that I'm going to take, because if I put my feet and my hands in the wrong place, again, I'm going to end up tying myself in knots. Another way that you can progress this is by making the distances wider, longer, or even taking out some of your markers. This activity is going to work on throwing again. You're going to need something to throw. I've got a pair of socks and I've also got a pillowcase with a towel inside it. Obviously, if you've got a tennis ball, ping pong ball or a football, that'd be really good. Just go careful if you're using it inside the house. I've also got 3 markers here. I've used paint pots, you could use plastic cups, you could use socks, anything just to mark a point that you're going to throw from. You're also going to need a target, which I'll show you soon. That could be drawn on an outside wall with some chalk. You could mark it with a piece of coloured paper on a door. What I've done is I've put some masking tape in a square on a door, and that's going to be my target. From the first marker that I've got, I'm going to be doing an underarm throw and aiming for my target. Then I'm going to move back once I've been able to do that, and I'm going to do a chest pass, also aiming at the target. Once I've completed that, for my furthest distance, I'm going to do an overarm throw. The reason we do an overarm throw from the furthest distance is it's the one that we can generate the most power with. You can interchange between the socks or tennis ball and the football or whatever you're using as a substitute, or you can just work your way all the way along using the same piece of equipment. So if I was going to do that, I could do an underarm throw, chest pass, and then an overarm throw. This session can also incorporate a bit of active maths. You could give different points for the different stations. For example, you might choose to work on your 2, 3, and 4 times tables, and maybe throw 5 times from the station where you can get 4 points, and each time you've got to add another amount of 4. It would also be really good if you can play with a parent, carer, or sibling, so you can compete against them. If not, you can still use the personal best target that we've used in other weeks to try and beat your own score. So I'm going to just use the pair of socks. Hopefully you can see the target on my door. Remember, do not do anything that's permanent. This will come off, it's just on masking tape. So from the first marker, and I'm going to give myself 1 point for the first marker, 2 points for the second, and 3 for the third. And the throw. I made it. Then from here I'm going to do a chest pass, which is more suited to the larger ball if you've got one. So added to 1, I've got 2. Now I'm on 3 points. Now I'm throwing from the 3-point mark. I'm going to go overarm. Add another 3, that would be 6 points. You can keep doing it, you can change the amount of scores. And like I say, if you can compete against people, that's even better. The final task for this week's PE is orienteering. Now, basically, orienteering involves map reading, and orienteering is called orienteering because you just have to orientate your map the correct way depending on where you stood. What you can do is you could draw a map of your garden. So if you've got a garden that has maybe table and chairs, a tree, a gate, or a paved area, you could put that on there. You could do it of the house or the flat that you live in, and you can mark things like doors, and obviously on there, if this was your dining room and you maybe have a dining table, you could put that in, or some sofas, whatever you have. Once you've drawn that map, what you can do is either with a partner, a sibling should I say, or a carer or a parent, is you can find some things to hide around the house, and on your map you can say to them, right, I've hidden something here. And what they've got to do is they've got to go across and try and find it. You could draw on the map where you've hidden things. So you could maybe draw some X's on the map to show them where they'll find things. Set a timer, see how quickly they can go and find all 5 things, and then they could challenge you. They could hide 5 things, maybe inside the house, and you could then see how quickly you can collect those things. So there's 2 skills here, really. There's a geographical skill, being able to draw a map and label things correctly, and then also the PE skill is the orienteering, being able to work your way around the course as quick as possible whilst being able to read the map. Again, we'd love to see your pictures and videos from all of the activities this week. It really does make everything worthwhile, seeing your happy smiling faces, getting active at home.